from Insufferable Wenches.
I'm Layla.
And tonight we have Jennifer Kirkman with us. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
Do you prefer Jennifer or Jenny or Jen, or do you have like a shorthand that you like, or do you like Jennifer?
I respond to all of those, so
Good.
whichever one you prefer works for me just fine.
Perfect. My name's Heather. You can't shorten that. I mean, you could try. It's just really, really awkward shortened names. You can
Yeah.
call me Heat, I guess. Layla
Or
also
her.
doesn't, or yes, you could just call me her. That's fine.
Mhm.
That
All
that's a
capital.
that's a great nickname. Um, Tell us you're running for Iowa House. Tell us what district and tell us about kind of the area that you are running in.
Okay, so I live down in Southeast Iowa and I'm running for House District 99. That is going to cover the area of Burlington, West Burlington. It's also going to go just a little bit north into Danville and a little bit south into Denmark and some of the Weaver kind of areas.
Perfect. I think Layla, we just did a candidate session with Eric Armstrong, and I think he said he was originally from Burlington,
Yeah.
if I remember right. I have to move this computer. Um, cool. So you are kind of at the edge of the state there,
Right.
Mississippi Riverside.
Yep, right on the Mississippi is where Burlington is. So
Awesome.
we're kind of down in the corner. We're not quite as far south as Keokuk, but we're just kind of over in that side there.
Perfect. Okay. So what inspired you to run?
Well, I think that I've been sitting around like a lot of people and grousing about the current state that we're living in and all of the politics that aren't helping out the general populace. And I was complaining about it, and I just kept saying, well, someone needs to do something. Someone needs to do something. And a friend of mine, who's also an attorney, just kind of looked at me and said, well, aren't we all someone? And I kind of took that to heart and thought, yeah, okay, so I need to stop complaining and actually do something. So I looked around at the other folks that were running in our area and our current representation. And I thought, I can do that. I'm an attorney. I've got the background. I know how laws are written. I know how laws are applied. I work with this every day. I've been an attorney for going on 21 years now. What's Matt Rinker got that I don't got? So that's what I decided to do. So here I am.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Do you have a primary opponent?
I have one, perhaps two primary opponents right now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, primaries all over the place in Iowa this time, which is so unusual. But we're kind of fans of like a healthy primary, give the
Sure.
people their options. What do you think makes you different from other Democratic candidates or your primary opponents?
Well, I'm young. I am a mother. I'm a family law attorney, which makes me a little bit unique in that I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different aspects of the law. So I work with folks on Department of Human Services investigations. So I'm aware of some of the issues concerning abuse, neglect, substance abuse issues, mental health commitments. I do guardianships and conservatorships, which sometimes apply to minors, but also sometimes apply to adults who might be in, a nursing home or have some concerns along those lines. I do your run-of-the-mill divorces and non-married custody actions. I also do some wills and estates. So I understand a lot about some of the property issues. But most of all, I talk to people every day about the things that are affecting their lives on a micro level right at their kitchen tables. And so I hear about, maybe I'm having a rough time having a job, or maybe my child's struggling with this, or I just had a meeting and I would have had a IEP about this, but I no longer have that IEP. So I have a lot of impersonal connections to the folks that live and work here in our district, and I see what they're facing. And so I feel like I've got a little bit more boots on the ground information about what needs to happen in Southeast Iowa to help people on a broader basis. I'm also a mother, and so I've got a kid in public school, and I have that experience. My child was also born with a congenital heart defect, and so I have some unique experiences about the way that insurance works and about the way that healthcare needs function. And then my fiance is a provider at our community health center, where 90% of the folks that come through there are on Medicaid. And so he also has kind of a better glimpse of maybe some of the other aspects that are happening here in Southeast Iowa.
Nice. I would think being in like family law and kind of a practicing family law attorney and being in that lane, you probably also have um, a pretty good glimpse of some like social issues and
Mhm.
domestic violence and,
Absolutely.
child abuse and things like that too. And I feel like that would also be a good thing to have going in. Um,
Right.
well, let's see. Layla, do you have anything?
No, I do not have anything at this
Okay.
moment.
Okay. So we'll just move to the next question. Our questions are not formatted to flow well, just so you know. So we'll just bounce all over
Okay.
the place. Do you have a specific podcast or political TikToker or um, I guess news outlet that you kind of focus on or like to watch or listen to?
For the most part, right now, my presence is on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a website. So I'm just kind of doing things the old-fashioned way for now, and we'll try to expand as we get a little further along in the campaign.
Gotcha. Where do you get your news?
Generally speaking, I listen to a lot of talk radio.
Okay.
So most of the time I am listening to POTUS on Sirius XM. I listen to that almost all day long. So I follow all of the announcers on there. Smirconish is a good filter for me. I subscribe to his website, and they send out a newsletter every single day that filters out a lot of different news. I think that they're generally kind of in the middle, or at least that's what they try to say that they are. And so you get a broad perspective. I have listened to them where they've had folks on both sides of the aisle talk about a variety of issues. They always have a different representative on there. So that's usually where I get my news.
Cool. Once with running a campaign, kind of a big conversation right now is corporate PAC money, and lobbyist money once you're elected. Are you taking corporate PAC money from corporations or do you plan on taking lobbyist money once you're elected?
I mean, I don't necessarily plan to, but at the same point in time, the campaigns are expensive. So I don't want to
They
just
sure are.
say automatically that I'm cutting that off and saying that there's no way that that will ever happen. It's important to me to have a connection to whoever the donor is. So I'm going to be selective about how that money comes in. But I'm not going to be one of the candidates that just makes a broad statement and says, no, absolutely not, because I mean, let's face it, they're expensive. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to have the kind of backing to say that I'll never take PAC money because that
Sure.
just may not be the way it is.
Yeah. No, and I think with us, we're gonna ask the questions that we hear a lot kind of out in the wild. When we talk about corporate PAC money, we're talking about like Walmart, FedEx, Exxon type places, not advocacy PACs, right? Like
Gotcha.
advocacy PACs, we're pro advocacy PACs. So, the Planned Parenthood, environmental agencies, things like that, we love that because campaigns are absolutely expensive. And there has to be this level of understanding with um people when they're asking, are you going to take PAC money? There's different kinds of PACs, right? So we always want to kind of explain what we mean by that. And also generally people, voters, constituents all need to understand that anyone who's running in a Democratic race is up against somebody who's got a war chest full of money.
Absolutely.
And you have to be able to combat that in some way. So, and
Yeah, we can only
understand
make a change if we win.
exactly.
And so there is going to be a major fundraising component with that.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't had it come up yet, but if there's a pack out there that wants to donate to me, please
You're like, hey,
get in touch because I'd love to have that question come up if people are donating thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right? Layla, you got the next question because I always mess it up.
So if you were to treat the legislature as if it were college, where you picked a major and a minor, what would you major in and what would you minor in?
Okay, do you mean like subcommittees or what is your question about that exactly?
So, if my answer is I would major in healthcare in the legislature and I
Okay.
would minor in infrastructure.
Gotcha. So I would say that my major would be in education because I'm very passionate about education. And my minor would probably be the health of Iowans. And that to me is a pretty broad kind of question because we need to figure out what's going on, making us famous for having the highest cancer rates in the state of Iowa, but also why we have one of the lowest access to healthcare providers. So that to me is not just, healthy Iowans as an environmental kind of circumstance, but also access to proper health care. So those would be my two top things that I would be looking at.
Yeah. I like that question because some people get really confused by it and it's fun.
It's a fun way to
Like,
think of like what your focuses are.
Yeah,
right,
I mean, legislators don't get to pick which subcommittees that they have that like they take part in. So it's interesting to find out where people would like to be.
right. That's fair.
Do you want me to continue or
You
do
can
you
keep
want to take
going.
it
You're good.
over? Okay. What are some ways that you're active in your community?
Oi. So it's a relatively small town. So I feel like at some point in time or another, I've been on almost every board that you could be on. When I first moved to town, I was on the Burlington Fine Arts League Committee, which I was the president of for a little while. That was an organization that raised money for scholarships and different community organizations that were arts related. I was on the Southeast Iowa Symphony Board. I was on the Chamber Board. I'm currently on the Burlington Riverfront Entertainment Board. I've been on the B-Town Pride on the Riverfront Board. I have been on, the Business and Professional Women's Board. I was on the Notre Dame Foundation Board. I mean, I feel like I've been on just about every board that you can be on. I'm sure there's a few out there that I'm missing. But professionals tend to be tapped to participate in things as we well should. And that's something that I've just always thought was really important. I think that once you get to a certain level, that it's your responsibility to give back to the community. And so I've tried to take that to heart, and it's a really good opportunity to meet people and to do things that are positive for the community. So, oh, yeah, Rotary, I'm on presently. I could do this for a long time, but they're on my website for the most part. I try to go back through for the past 20 years and list out what I've been on.
Yeah, it's always good to hear when people who are running for office are actually active in their community because, I mean, I know where I live, our current representative, I've never seen him in public.
Oh, gosh.
So we support candidates who are in their community.
I mean, at the end of the day, I strongly feel like public service is what candidates and representatives are supposed to be. Like they are supposed to be not only representing the people that they, are part of the community that they come from, but it's the service portion of it. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be getting back to. That's what I learned in government class, and that's certainly the values that my parents instilled in me. And we all, I mean, I don't know. I grew up in Independence, which I know is pretty close to you guys up there
Yeah.
in the Cedar Valley. And my dad, he's in his 70s, and every time there's a snowstorm, he still goes down and plows out, the neighbor's house. Here locally, if there's a flood or anything else, people turn out to, fill sandbags and do all the things. I mean, Iowans know how to do this. It's just that sometimes our representatives forget that they're there to help fill sandbags for other people, as opposed to whatever they're getting out of it individually and whatever their ego is being served by.
Yeah, it reminds me of like everyone wants a village, but no one wants to be a villager.
That's
That kind
fair.
of epidemic that we're Oh, this is one of the most important and most serious questions we have. Cats or
Okay.
dogs, and why?
Cats or dogs and why? Oh, that's a tough question. I am going to say cats, even though I am allergic to cats. But I love that cats have their full autonomy and independence, and they will do their own thing, and they will only come out if they actually genuinely like you. They're like less easy to dupe, I think. But I have a dog, and my dog is lovely, but my dog is sort of like a cat because it's a King Charles Cavalier. And so all he wants to do is be wherever you are and sleep on the sofa in the sunlight. So it's almost like having a cat.
Yeah. I like cats because I have dogs, and they're so rambunctious all the time, and you have to let them outside, and it's freezing.
Yeah, but you
So
don't have to change the litter box.
it's
So,
true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
there you go.
Um, what are your top priorities? And they can't include healthcare, water quality, or education.
They can't.
They cannot.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to talk about the economy because economic growth is 49th in the nation right now. And I noted that Iowa just celebrated its 18th anniversary of the $7.25 minimum wage. I can see Illinois from here.
Mhm.
Okay. Like it's just right over there. And in Illinois, the minimum wage is 15 something. I think it's like 15.25, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know it's 15 and some change. And so we have people that, we're just hemorrhaging to the state next door for a variety of reasons, but that's definitely one of them. So we need to start looking at the minimum wage, and we need to start taking care of workers at the bottom. This corporate subsidy and, the flowing down economics, it's not working. It hasn't been working. And as a result of it, people are struggling even harder with affordability. So that's where I would start if I can't address the other two things that are on the top of my agenda.
I know we took the like most popular topics people talk about out because everybody knows, everybody hears about it, everybody's talking about it.
Yep.
So we went
Right.
something different.
Yeah.
Yep. That's fair.
I think at this point, we know anyone who's running for office is going to focus on healthcare, water quality, and education, especially with our garbagey voucher program. Um,
Right.
so yeah, we want to hear about the smaller things and the more the less talked about subjects, I think.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, minimum wage is I was 26 years old when minimum wage went to 7.25, and I don't remember, it was like five
It was
something before that.
5:15, I think. Yep.
5.15, yes. So I in my lifetime have seen two minimum wage increases, because
Hmm.
when I was in high school it was 4.25, I think, or something close to that. Um, Knowing that the minimum wage is older than or younger than two of my children, older than two of
Right.
my children, is
And
insane.
absolutely nothing has stayed the same price, for 18 years. I
No.
mean, when you look around, I mean, there's just nothing. Like I said, I am a family law attorney, so we do child support guidelines.
Yeah.
And full-time minimum wage is $15,080 a year. I can tell you that just like this because we fill it in on child support guidelines all the time. I can't tell you the number of times that I have asked people what they spend on childcare, and the amount of money that they're spending on childcare far exceeds what they could earn at their minimum wage jobs.
Yeah.
Which explains why some people choose to stay home. But then when you get divorced, there's no income source for those folks.
Right.
So that's, I could talk about a lot of things that kind of circle around the affordability aspect. I mean,
Yeah.
childcare is way too expensive. There's a lot of things with insurance. We've already talked about some of the ACA kinds of things. So there's a lot that needs to be done to help people, at home at their kitchen tables. And you can look at other states like New Mexico has done some tremendous things. Iowa is capable of doing it. They just have chosen not to for reasons that I don't understand. Instead, we've been doing some of this culture war kinds of things that are taking the focus off what we really need to be focused on.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think when we talk about like the childcare crisis, a lot of people don't really paint the picture of half of the parents have stopped working and have then like stopped contributing to the economy, which is just
Mhm.
furthering the problem that we're already living.
Right.
And that it's always women, predominant.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
I have a very good understanding of how it works the other way because it's not always women, but yes, women tend to fall into those positions. And then when they have the gaps in their resume, they have a harder time reentering the workforce
Mhm.
at the rate that they could have had they stayed in the workforce. So,
Yeah. Which also leads into retirement and social security and all of those things. I think that doesn't get talked about a lot, that taking time off to stay home with your kids and raise your kids affects you way later when
mhm,
you file for your social security. Um, you're kind of penalized for not working during that time.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that is definitely not a conversation that you hear come up very often. So just thought I'd put those 2 cents in there. Sorry. Stayed home with my kids for like 3 years out of my entire life. No, thank you. They're great. I love them. I just need to get away from them sometimes.
Yes, I remember that vividly. My child is now old enough that they have a driver's license and are
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get as far away from me, other than, money, and gas. That's pretty much about
Oh, yeah.
it.
My youngest is 14, so I'm kind of at the same place almost. But
Mhm.
I remember when they were young and how hard that was and how hard that decision was to stay
Absolutely.
home with them because we couldn't afford the daycare and things like, especially if you have multiple kids. Holy crap.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anyways, we could talk about that for a really long
Yes,
time.
we could.
Layla, you want to keep going?
Sure. Do you support the private school voucher program?
No, full sentence. No.
Yeah. Um, I know that there's kind of a lot of discourse, specifically amongst Democrats, whether the end goal should be to work with them, and that's the end goal, or if the end goal is to get rid of the private school voucher program. Where do you think you fall in that?
Absolutely get rid of it. It's not working. It's not going to work. And I can elaborate on that if you want, but I mean, at the end of the day, so let me just back up and say that my kid actually went to private school until about fifth grade, and we're in public school now. So I've experienced both sides of the education system. At least here locally, we don't have a lot of private schools to choose from. So there was the private school and then the public school. But the upshot is that the private schools, as far as I understand it, still have all the choice in the world of letting in whichever students they want to let in. So the argument that it makes the school more accessible fails there. It also fails in the idea that it's going to be more affordable. I mean, locally here, what our private school did was they just simply increased the cost to match what they were getting for the voucher.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make it more accessible for people to go there based on affordability. So it fails on both of those fronts. Obviously, there's no public oversight of that public money, which is complete BS as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to use my taxpayer dollars, I want to know where it's going and how it's being spent. There's also not a lot of talk about like how these kids are going to get to school if they need to get to school. Locally, our busing system, I know the private school and public school kind of work together on that, but that's another weird wrinkle that happens anyway. And all we're doing right now is taking money out of the public schools and putting it in the private schools. And as I understand it, a lot of the admission rates haven't even gone up that much in the private schools because kids that were otherwise going to private school and not using voucher money are now just using voucher money to re-enroll in the same place that they were already attending. So that's not helping us reach more students. And from a rural standpoint, I mean, we don't have a lot of options, even as far as the private schools go. So when you're taking that public money, a lot of it is kind of taking it out of rural centers that already have, some of the struggles with getting good people to come here and work and pushing it towards more urban centers, which is only hurting all of us that live in more rural counties, even more than we were already suffering. And then you compound that with some of the things like, looking at IPERS changes and, the way that we've already stripped our teachers of their, collective bargaining and the gutting of the AEA. And I mean, the education system needs to be overhauled. We need to get back to a lot of the things that we were doing right, that for some reason, instead of continuing to do those things right, they've decided to stop doing them at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, I agree with that. There is one private school in the house district we live in, and it's just a K through 8.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, we have the private Catholic school, and then there's Trinity. So I guess we have two. But yeah, we don't have a whole bevy of them to choose from.
right.
I
Most
can
places
say
don't.
with doing this, like interview the candidate sessions and things, if we ever have somebody that comes on is like, "Oh, I'm pro school voucher," I don't
Your
think
head's gonna explode.
my head might explode. Like in
You're like,
real time in front of
and we're
everyone.
done. Click.
End call.
Yeah.
I can give grace on a lot of things. That is not one of them.
It was a horrible idea. I mean, I sort of
Yeah.
understand that people, want to have choice. I
Mhm.
mean, that's kind of the whole American way, right? We're all
Yeah.
about choice. Well, let me back that up. On some things, everyone's about choice. Let's not overstate it.
Right, right,
But the upshot is that it's even the things that it was marketed to do, it's not doing.
right.
And we just need to cut our losses before we get even further into a deficit.
Hmm. Absolutely agreed. I think when it comes to the school vouchers and the things that have happened with school lunches and the food, both of those things have been tried in other states
Mhm,
previous to Iowa trying it. And I
mhm.
find it really interesting that as a state, Iowa looked at those states with their failing programs and they were like, you know what? It
They're
failed
onto
there,
something. Yeah.
but they're on to something. We're going to do the same thing here. It's going to go great.
Right,
What?
right.
Yeah, crazy.
Hmm.
Okay. Mom, I'll ask this one and then you can ask the rest, okay? Does
Okay.
that sound like a good plan? Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
If you could pass legislation on a petty grievance, what would it be and why?
A petty grievance.
Mhm.
Uh, Talking with your mouth open. Or I'm sorry, eating with your mouth open.
We're just going to
Yeah.
ban that. That is
Yeah.
now illegal.
Yep.
30 days in
The
lockup,
sound,
buddy.
the sound. Yes.
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think my example is supporting public transportation for all of the obvious reasons, affordability, accessibility, yada, 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 but also to get bad drivers off the road.
Ah, fair.
Yeah.
Except they probably want to take the buses because they don't know they're bad drivers.
That's exactly right. That is exactly. They think they're the good drivers.
Self-awareness is key in that, and I'm not sure everyone has self-awareness.
From what we've seen being in this lane, nah.
Yeah,
No.
fair enough.
Okay, so what would you consider valid experience for someone that's running for Iowa House? It's a broad question on purpose because everybody looks at this very differently and we like the different answers.
I mean, I think that almost anyone could run for Iowa House. Whether or not they're going to be effective is an entirely different question. But I think that anyone who has, experience being a citizen and being out in the world probably has their own perspective about something that's affecting their lives that they think the state could do better. My perspective is that people who have more experience probably are a little bit better positioned because they're touching more aspects of, the economy and healthcare and, water quality and schools and so on and so forth. But also, we want people who are going to be thoughtful enough and maybe progressive enough that they're thinking of how to do things better as opposed to just thinking that this is the way that it's always been done. And so we're always going to do it that way. So I think there's a sweet spot in terms of age. I also think that there is kind of a sweet spot in terms of life experience. And not everyone is going to have life experience that is going to put them in touch with the everyday kind of person. I mean, um, there are folks who don't have any idea what is going on with 90% of their neighbors and fellow community members. So I think it has to be someone who is aware of, how things actually work in a very practical kind of way with the rest of the people who live and work here.
Yeah. I would say from our standpoint, if there are age limits anywhere, there should be age limits everywhere.
And
So if
term
you
limits.
and term limits. So if you cannot run for office at 18 years old, then you should not be able to run for office at 92. Like that's just,
That's fair.
um, we're big fans of multiple experiences can lead to good experience to work in the lane of politics. Um, I think that a lot of times people expect a very specific resume for someone who's running for office. Um, and I think that sometimes it's overlooked that those people are not always the best choice for the area
Mhm.
that they're representing,
Right.
right? Um, Iowa is heavily represented by farmers,
Right.
um, and business owners, but those are usually one and the same, right? Um, and while farmers absolutely need representation in Iowa, so does everyone else.
Right. They don't
So,
speak for everybody.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it's really great to have kind of like a melting pot, right? Of
Right.
different experiences and different perspectives and different races and different religions and different
Mhm.
genders and different ages. And I think it would be really great to see that in the Iowa House since it is heavily represented by farmers and mostly white people,
Right.
you know? Um,
Mhm.
so I lost my spot on our sheet of questions, as I do almost every time.
Round
Um,
13.
there we go. So, what keeps you going? Campaigning's hard. All of this is a lot.
Oh, it is a lot. I don't know. I think that every day I just kind of try to get up and do my part. I don't know that there's any one thing. I just know that if everybody just does one thing and kind of keeps trying to make the world a better place, the world will eventually become a better place. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I get pretty fired up listening to some of the things that are the choices that our politicians have been
Oh, yeah.
making, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that a lot of the choices that they're making are not good choices. So that keeps the fire in my belly. But, I mean, I've got a kid at home. I've got a good fiance. I've got great partners and great workers and good friends, and they help keep me propped up when I need it.
Perfect. What would you consider your hottest take? Kind of your
Hmm.
most unpopular opinion? We have lots
Well,
of them. If
I have lots of unpopular opinions. It's not really a hot take, but I think that where I'm at here in Southeast Iowa, I look around and say, we are hemorrhaging people and we're hemorrhaging people to Illinois. And I think one of the reasons we're hemorrhaging people to Illinois is the minimum wage. But also we have not legalized cannabis. And I'm not necessarily I'm not a cannabis user myself. But at the end of the day, it's money on the table, right? 22 different states in the United States have legalized cannabis. And Iowa is just not, and we need it. Like our economic growth is horrible. We need it for infrastructure, we need it for schools, we need it to bridge that ginormous deficit. How did we end up with this ginormous deficit? We had a surplus like 4 years ago.
not going to answer
Um,
that, it'll get me in trouble.
yeah. But I mean, we need it.
Yeah,
So that is certainly something that might be a controversial thing, but at the end of the day, it's a revenue source and we need to tap into it.
absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think a lot of people completely agree with that. Um, People that use it or people that don't. Um, and it has worked out well for other states that have
Mhm.
legalized it. Um, I don't really know
And
what the
it's
holdup
all
is.
around us.
other than
you know,
the moral majority throwing a
majority.
tantrum.
Actually,
Um,
I take issue with both the words moral and majority.
fair, because they're neither. Um, what do you think your wokest take is? It might be the same answer, actually.
I don't. Wokeist take would just be that why are we legislating things like book bans and what people can, do with their genitalia or what bathrooms people can use when we've got all of these other problems? I mean, I think that most of us are acutely aware of the other problems, but when you look at like Action One Iowa and they list out that there were 26 different bills that were attempted in the last legislative session to be anti-woke. And we've got all these other bigger fish to fry. I'm also, this is just kind of an aside, but I'm also on the Civil Rights Commission here with our city. And it's a fun group. There's just a handful of us, and most of the time we haven't had a huge budget. But one of the things that we have done is that at Juneteenth and then also at one of the Pride events or both of the Pride events, depending upon the year, we give out books, children's books that have representation for kids that identify, with whatever, and so that there's representation for them to see themselves in the communities that they occupy. So we've been doing that for a few years, but now Iowa just passed the anti-DEI. And so one of the conversations that we've been having is, okay, the state requires you at a certain population to have a civil rights commission. It's a required thing for the city to have. But now we can't, by a different law, do the things that the Civil Rights Commission is supposed to do. So we just kind of wring our hands at these meetings and go, well, so now what are we supposed to do? Like it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So Iowa needs to figure out what they're doing with that because none of that makes sense. And of course, I could elaborate about DEI for a really long time, and I'm sure you could too. But the upshot just is that I don't see there being anything wrong with promoting, you know, people to have representation that looks like that
Right.
and to see themselves in the communities that they occupy. So I don't know what's going on with all of that. None of that makes sense to me.
None of it. Not an ounce of it. We last year during legislative season, we read all of the bills and kind of condensed them down and posted them in like smaller summaries of what they actually were. And that gave us a really good glimpse into kind of what the hell was happening
Mhm.
in the legislature last year. And some of the things that were atrocious obviously passed, right?
Right.
Some of them did not, which was
But
great,
they'll try again.
but it's going to come back this session,
Mhm.
which is now, I don't even know, like a week away, a little more than a week away. And we're going to do the same thing this year. And we're going to break down the bills and we're going to try to get as much information out in the public as we can because those bills are not accessible to normal people. No
Right.
one has the time to go read those things on that website in that weird font that is all connected and hard to read. Um,
Mhm.
and last year, a lot of people got really, really involved, and I think that was really good. But 90% of what we were pushing out was what everybody calls culture wars, which we hate that term, um, because those culture wars affect people that matter. It affects people that matter. But that's what the majority of it was this culture war stuff. And the entire time we're like, okay, cool. So I was going broke right now. We're like a
Right.
welfare state. Are we gonna talk about that? Like, are we gonna do
Mhm.
anything about it? No, nope, we're not. We're just gonna talk about bathrooms and,
Right.
the dumbest things that affect literally, you know, nobody negatively, essentially. Um,
Mhm.
so again, I could ramble on and on and on and on in a very angry manner. What
Same. We'll do that a separate time.
right? We should just have one big meeting, like where everybody just gets together and there should be lots of wine and snacks. And we can
Yep.
all just piss and moan about how terrible things are going. It's okay. We're hopeful, but it's
Mhm.
okay to recognize how awful it's been too. What is something you've learned about yourself from campaigning?
Oh. I've learned that I am even more outspoken than I thought that I was, but that I can swear less.
Good for you. I
And in my day-to-day life, there's a lot of profanity, and I have learned that I am capable of reining that in a little bit when I'm in a public space. So, still working on that one.
Me too. It's okay. And selectively, if I'm being completely
Right.
honest, sometimes it's got to come out, and sometimes
Uh-huh.
it's valid and necessary. But
And sometimes it's the only verb or adjective that you can use in the particular situation
right,
to convey exactly what you mean.
100%. Um, so we have rapid fire. It's not really rapid fire because it's only two questions. But it's things that we deal with a lot within kind of the scope of insufferable wenches. So, trans rights, where do you stand?
So, trans rights are human rights as far as I'm concerned.
Very good. And then your stance on the bodily autonomy of women.
Uh, they get to do what they want with their own bodies
Fabulous.
in
Yeah.
all ways, shapes, and forms.
Yes, we love that. We talked to Ken Crokin yesterday, um, who had his response was just unexpected and fantastic. He was like, I'm going to go even farther. Like, not only people say it's between a woman and her doctor, and he's like, and I don't think so. It's between a woman and herself. Her doctor is just there for guidance. It's not his choice. It's not their choice. It is that woman's choice. And I was like, thank you for that. Um, it was it was a little we don't know much about, a lot of candidates because we're in one little corner of Iowa, right? But it's always really cool when you get on and you meet somebody, especially older people who usually tend to
Huh?
lean conservative or moderate. And no. And I
Good.
thought that was a good response. I liked it a lot.
Absolutely. I
Um,
always say that I've never once called Kimmy to ask her if I needed a flu shot, so I don't think anything else is any of her business either.
yeah.
And
Uh,
what do business people and those kind of people know about what you need as far as medical care goes anyway? And women's choice is just another form of medical care. And I can talk about this in a lot of detail because, like I said, my kid was born with a congenital heart defect. So I met a lot of mothers and fathers too, but mothers in particular who might have known or not known that their kids were literally going to die or have to have some very traumatic heart surgeries. My own child had an open heart surgery at the age of 5 months, and some of the different aspects that go along with that. I will also go on to say that as a family law attorney, I can't set up custody or child support until a child is born. And so if we are going to treat a
ta-da!
fetus, yeah, so if we're going to treat a fetus like a human at the
Mhm.
time of conception, quote unquote, then we need to give it a social security number. See, I almost swore there. A social security number, make it available for its own health insurance, make it available for its own life insurance, and start collecting child support. Because if it's a person, then it's a person. It needs to be a person all the way across the board, or it's not. But we need to pick. The
Yep.
hypocrisy of it always drives me crazy.
Can't play both sides.
That's right.
Absolutely. 100%. See, now that is a topic that we could definitely talk about for a very long time. Um,
Right.
okay. So, last two things. Why should your constituents vote for you
Well,
specifically?
like I said, I think I'm the most qualified. I mean, at the end of the day, I have the most knowledge about the things that are affecting people at their dining room tables, but also I understand how laws are written, and I understand how laws don't always work the way that they're supposed to work. Like when you write a law and then it actually gets put into action and affects real people, sometimes it has to go all the way down and then someone has to bring a case before it goes all the way back up to the Supreme Court to say, oh, when you were writing that, you screwed up this, or you didn't think about that, or you didn't do this, that, or the other thing. And I think I'm in a particularly good position to understand what needs to be looked out for when laws are written and to understand that you don't need to create a blanket law in certain areas where you could just have carve outs to hit the intention of what you're trying to say that you want to do.
Gotcha. Okay. And then um your social media, website, all of those things, where can people find you?
Okay, so it's Kirkman for Iowa. That is my website. So kirkmanforiowa.com, Kirkman for Iowa on my Facebook, and then Kirkman, yeah, I think it's Kirkman for Iowa on Instagram as well. So those would be the three top places where you can find me.
Amazing. And then what is your big ask for anybody who's watching? What's your big ask?
I need volunteers and money, so come on down. I know that our campaign is good. I know that what we're trying to achieve is good. I know that the priorities that we have are good. So if you are interested in getting involved in just doing one thing, just one small thing is all it takes to try to turn this entire state blue. Volunteer, donate, do a postcard party, do a in-person party, whatever it is, I'll be there, and I'd love to have your help.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for coming on and chatting with us.
Absolutely, my
We know it's
pleasure.
not the most exciting thing ever, but we like talking to everyone, so we get really excited about these. Yes, everybody go check out her Jennifer Kirkman for Iowa, and we will keep an eye on your campaign and watch and see what happens.
Wonderful. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.